right, you guys, we are at TIFF 2024. This is for Piece by Piece. This is the animated documentary for Pharrell. This is going to be insane. We're on the red carpet. Can't wait to actually review the film. But this is just such an ambitious project. I've already seen what he did with Doodlesville, so I can't wait to see what he's going to do with this one. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
This is Pharrell Williams. Thank you. Cameron Bailey is en route to do the Q&A, so we are just vamping before he gets here. But I think we could say something about what we would have said if we had introduced the film. You know, this was a totally unique 5-year mission that came from this man's creative brain and his magical thinking, that we could do this kind of a story. And you know, it was one of those projects where every time we got deeper into it, a new door opened and it showed us some new thing we could do. And it just got more and more exciting. It's when that happens when you're making a film. Here he is.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm sorry I was a bit late. Just dealing with something upstairs. I don't know if we've already acknowledged some of the community groups who are here. Auto Remix Project is in the house. Jam is here. Success Beyond Limits is here. Aquila's Room and the Canadian Centre for Victims of Torture and the Scadden Court Community Centre. Thank you all for being here today.
But just into the first imaginary question, which is how did this happen?
Okay, all right. And did you finish that answer or not?
No, he hasn't answered yet.
Okay,
But
well, why don't we go ahead to that? Why don't you get into how did this collaboration, how did this whole project come to be?
Well, first of all, Cameron, thank you, and thanks for having Morgan and I, and thank you all for taking the time and space to watch our film. This came from the idea that I did not want to do a film or a documentary based on my life because, I mean, I don't know if you want to do a documentary on yours, you know, or if you want to listen to yourself on voicemail, it's not fun. So imagine an hour plus, you know, and change minutes of something like that, torture. But, you know, when I was told by my agent that I could do a documentary, who was being forceful, he was being so insistent that I do one. When I was told the magic words that I could do it my way, it was like, okay, well, you guys have seen Won't You Be My Neighbor, right?
Yeah.
And how this man thinks and the sort of framework, his process for figuring out how, you know, the architecture is going to be for his pieces. I was like, okay, that guy, I'd give him autonomy and let him tell my story whatever way he saw fit. Because if I did it, it would be this crazy meatloaf of hubris. And, you know, I want to put this in there and put that in there. And it's like, well, you look at it and go, what is that, you know? So then I thought, like, well, you know, my imagination was always so vivid as a child, and one of the platforms that allowed me to do that and make it make sense, you know, when there's no Lego set in front of you and you're daydreaming all day long, your teacher says you have ADD. When the Lego set's in front of you, it makes all the sense in the world. You're just thinking about your next brick. So for me, it was like, okay, that was my favorite, you know, toy as a child. And, you know, our first son, Rocket, that's what we used to get him when we would go to different places around the world. We would get him different Lego sets. And then we had just had triplets at right around the time this opportunity arose. And I was like, you know what, I want my kids to hear their dad tell his story, and I want them to understand at a young age, and Lego made it fit for such. So it was all of those things, but then, you know, it also makes it very universal because, of course, as you might have recognized over the years, or maybe even just now, if you're just meeting me, I am a Black man, you know, and I do come from a marginalized community, and that's what we work really hard and feverishly to show you in here. But when it's told through the guise of Lego pieces, all of a sudden it becomes a bit more digestible and palatable to people who may otherwise say, oh, you know, it's Black story, I'm cool. Or, no, I'm looking, you know, Black people, I'm really looking for the poverty porn. We're going to the poor part. Where are the drugs? Where is the shooting? You know, where are the, you know, where's the ODs? But in Lego, it makes you just realize, it gives you a texture and context where you see the humanity in me as a Black man, which is what we work so hard to do as Black people in America, is for you to see the man and for you to see the humanity in us. And that's what I'm so thankful to Lego for. But that is, I know it's a very long-winded answer, but that is the reason why, you know, this is the only guy that I would trust. I would put my life, I'd literally put my life in his hands. And Lego's the only platform that helped to make it make sense so that you guys could get it. I don't know how you felt about it today, but you know, the Lego pieces was the second director.
You know, one other brilliant
Lego World, sorry.
Yeah, one other brilliant piece of this is that we get to see you create in the studio as we're watching how all these incredible tracks came together, all these incredible songs came together, and creating music has its own brick by brick element to it, right? Each note is a brick, each track in the studio is a brick, and you're building something new that didn't exist before out of these existing pieces. So as I was watching it, it kind of felt like we're watching Lego, but we're actually seeing you play with your own bricks as you're creating this incredible music as well. And I wondered if there were those kinds of like just synchronicities that you came across as you were making this movie this way.
I mean, I'll say something I realized early on is, you know, going through all of your songs and thinking about what would go in the film and what songs would help tell a story, and then getting the stems, the piece about this man too. Just from our first meeting, I knew there was something special there, and we didn't know what it was going to be. I mean, it's one of the things about the process, particularly the documentary process, where you just have a gut feeling that there's something there and you're going to figure it out along the way. You don't want to look at the mountain, you just want to look at the path. And as long as the path gets richer and richer, then you just keep going. And that was absolutely what happened here. And so we started the film, I mean, we started just by doing interviews and with each other. Then we did a proof of concept just to see if it was going to work for us and to show other people. Just a little scene, the scene of him listening to Stevie Wonder and the synesthesia kicking in. And at that moment, I think we both felt, oh, this is totally going to work. This is really, we're on to something. And then COVID hit. And so most of the interviews I did on Zoom or telephone during COVID. You know, I remember mailing Missy Elliott a digital recorder so she could record her own voice, you know, and me on the phone trying to instruct her how to get it to work, you know. And so, but then we'd send sound people and people at home studios, and so we gathered that, and so it was unconventional, but we didn't tell people we were making a Lego movie.
You didn't?
No.
Really?
Oh, wow.
We just said, we're doing a documentary and it's going to be animated.
Okay.
That was it. Just because it would have added a layer of people getting in their own head about it.
Unwarranted.
Yeah.
Pre-posturing.
Yeah.
Oh, I shouldn't say this story because, you know, I'm moving like this. Like, no, we don't want that. We just want the pure, raw, unadulterated, you know, feeling. And I think if you discerned magic in it, I think we do.
There's
But
magic.
If you discern magic in there, that is what you're seeing. You're seeing the people be the purest of themselves, and him just, you know, having everything strewn together like pearls, like just the right moments. And again, the animation company just working in tandem with his direction.
And exactly, I remember specifically, for example, interviewing Jay, and I knew he was going to call 1 week I didn't know when, you know, so 9:30 at night, one night, I get a phone call.
You're just waiting for Jay to call
waiting
at
by the
any
phone.
point.
And, you know, and we just had this long conversation. He recorded his audio. But there's just something about the intimacy of like a late night phone call, you know, that I love too, you know, and something I really, that intimacy that I was really trying to get through all the interviews too, you know, and so it was a special process.
That's really remarkable. This is a movie that I think will raise the bar for movies about musicians. We've seen, it's a bit of a kind of a period right now. A lot of great musical artists are making films, documentaries, fictional versions of their lives. But what you've done here is give us a kind of a new bar in terms of the imagination that goes into it. And I guess I'm wondering, are there other artists that you would love to see movies about? Not Lego movies necessarily, but if you want to see artists that you are fans of or that you love, and you want to see that kind of similar leap of imagination, who would you want to watch on screen?
Wow. It could be so many. I think probably the emergence of like Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that would be crazy. But then I would have also loved to have seen one on Steely Dan.
Oh, yeah.
And then there was this like creative collective called the Native Tongues, and it included De La Soul, Leaders of the New School, Jungle Brothers, and also a group called Tribe Called Quest,
Yes.
which Q-Tip was sort of the commandeer of, and Q-Tip's like my dad creatively. I make music because of him. He was the final straw when it came to me just being a person who's like just purely a music consumer, just lots of music consumption, and saying to myself, oh no, see, you know, whoever this is recognizes what makes me love a Stevie Wonder song. I always want to just go back to the bridge and listen to it over and over and over again. And Stevie would always like bring his bridges back at the end of the song as the vamp, and it would be like a 7-minute song, and it's just like this odyssey for me. This guy had made a bunch of songs where the whole song just continued to, then I learned what sampling was, and it was looping. And helps you to be you, regardless to what your environment continues to suggest, or your circumstances, the boxes your circumstances tries to put you in, or your tax bracket. Like, what makes you happy is what makes you you, and that which makes you special is what makes you that which makes you different is what makes you special. Sorry.
Because you just mentioned that pursuit of happiness, I have to ask about that particular track, and also about the evolution of your career, because in the movie we see you being very comfortable in the studio at a certain point, and then that decision to go on stage, to perform, and then how uncomfortable that made you for a while at least, and then until you made yourself comfortable with it. And then there was also the shift from being simply in, let's say, the hip hop and R&B world to getting into the pop world, then getting into movies with Despicable Me and that incredible worldwide hit. You can't go anywhere on the planet without hearing your music now. And I'm wondering about, as you are navigating all of those in your real life and then re-navigating them as you're making the film, what emotions are you going through as you realize how far you have come each of those big steps along the way?
Oh man, what an amazing question. The grace that the universe has shown me throughout all my years of hubris, all my years of arrogance and being pompous, the grace that God has shown me. Walking around thinking that like, oh, I sold this many records. No, you made that song And millions of people decided to share, download, or stream, or purchase these songs. And they gave you the ubiquity that you feel. It's not you. But for many years, it's like any other musician. Man, I sold this many records. Look at all these plaques. Da, 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 da. The grace that the universe, which is all-knowing, all-seeing, omnipotent, omnipotent, is always just looking at me going, you'll see. Giving me the grace, as I, to your point, spent a lot of time when I was making music. I did a lot of channeling and emulating and never really having my voice. I think I'm a much better writer right now than I've ever been, a much better producer than I've ever been. And looking at my peers, operating with the hubris that they did because they're, thinking that I needed to achieve their goals, and then figuring out in life that that's not really what I wanted. Like, I didn't want to do this and I didn't want to do that. But I seen these things as achievement. And the thing is that success is a side effect. It's not a goal. Success is a side effect of doing something fun that you really enjoy. But when you have so much of it, you forget that fun is what led you to success, and then you start just chasing success. And so if I can impart something to you, it's like, no, success is a side effect. It's the fun that matters the most. And you'll find that people who just have success all the time, sometimes they end up unaliving themselves just because they're like, man, I can't feel the joy, and I'm doing well. My circumstances tells me that everything is great. Why don't I feel great? Because you've lost the plot. The plot is to do what you love that helps you be you.
Beautifully said.
Yes, sir. This is not happening, And we literally, we were just blown away because luckily 3-4 years before that, Chad and I were experimenting with music because I couldn't get over how the Bonita Applebum song was constructed by A Tribe Called Quest. I couldn't get over it. I still can't get over it. It's still a record that I play right now, and I'm just like, wow, what an odyssey. And then it took me, I now have my master's in music theory, but it took me doing theory to understand what was going on. And just so you guys know, if you guys want to know what it is.
What's going on?
It's because the chord progression doesn't resolve.
Oh, okay.
So think about it. If something is not resolving, then it keeps going. It's like, it's the reason why you eat Doritos and can't stop, or why you drink soda, because your taste buds are not being resolved, so you want more. And when I figured that out in the music, I was like, oh, I want to do this for the rest of my life.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And I'll say, when he says that he has a master's in music theory, he doesn't mean metaphorically. He just
I believe
finished
it.
getting a master's. He went back to school.
Congratulations. Last thing I want to ask is, you wrote some new songs for Piece by Piece as well, 5 new songs. And can you talk a little bit about those songs and what you wanted them to add to the story?
Well, of the 5, I would say there's one called Lego Odyssey, and it was done while I was in Paris. And as you see, most of this movie is about, my ego. And so, but in French, ego is ego. And when you say it's L-E, and you just do the apostrophe, so it's L' ego, and it's pronounced Lego. And the whole thing is just about me thinking I know everything and learning a very hard lesson. And then the other thing is Piece by Piece. The one that you're hearing in the movie is actually the second version. The first version was, I thought was very sweet and very honest, and it was cool, and I felt like it was well written, but it didn't tick all the boxes. Like I want something to be an earworm. Like when you hear, you're like, okay, what's that? Any other one wasn't doing that. It was just like these nice chords, and you know. But I wanted something that was super stealth in the verse and nocturnal. And then when you hear the chorus, it feels all bright because the chords are in major. So I wanted to go night, day, night, day, night, day, marching band. And I put my high school marching band in it because why not flex? You know? So those are things I would share with you guys about those songs. I don't know if you understand.
I mean, when you would engage, like so the name of the Lego song is Lego Odyssey.
Yeah.
And
The Ego Odyssey.
The Ego Odyssey. And you sent me a piece of it, and then it got longer and longer and longer. With more sections, you know, it's an incredible piece. We have sections in there, but eventually there is going to be a soundtrack album that you will be able to hear the whole thing.
Okay, thank you for letting us know. Listen, I just want to thank you all for being here, for bringing Piece by Piece to the Toronto Film Festival. I'm going to ask you to join me in thanking the incredible Pharrell Williams and NEVILLE.
Thank you, Kim.